Good evening, everybody. Thank you for joining us within the cauldron. Tonight we have a special guest. I'm going to let my lovely co-host, Medium Red, introduce our guest tonight.
Hi, beautiful sister Chrissy. How are you this evening?
Tired, but I'm here.
Prepping for Thanksgiving. I know how that is. Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining us this evening within the Cauldron and Behind the Witch's Veil. We have a wonderful guest here, Jason Hassler of Big River Paranormal, which I understand is also a part of the TAPS family. We'll hear more about that as he tells us a little bit more about paranormal and ghost hunting and all the wonderful things that go with it. Welcome on, Jason. Thank you for coming on and joining us this evening.
Yes, thanks for having me.
So, Jason, tell us a little bit more about your team.
Okay, so Big River Paranormal, they've been around for about 20 plus years. They've helped over 1,000 clients.
Wow.
They are the TAPS family team for Idaho, Oregon, and Southwest Washington. So, and for people who don't know what TAPS family is, the TAPS family is the Atlantic Paranormal Society. So that is from the Ghost Hunters TV show, which started with Grant Wilson and Jason Hawes. They had, the Atlantic Paranormal Society, so they couldn't take all the calls they were getting. They couldn't help everybody because they got so popular on TV. They couldn't service everybody, so they had to come up with teams all over the country that have their line of training to assist the clients. So if they get a call from Oregon, Washington, Idaho, Big River Paranormal is where that goes, and then we can assist the client from there. Yeah.
Oh, that's wonderful. That's really neat.
Yes, yeah. That's really, really cool. So did they pick you, call you and say, "Hey, Jason, will you help us out?" Or was it an application, or how did that come
I'm not really sure how that worked because the team started in Boise. Our executive director, Marie, she was the one that did all that. I think it's an application process. Yeah, and then they go through, and you have to be established for a while and have different kinds of qualifications and that kind of stuff. And I'm not 100% sure exactly what those are because I wasn't part of the team when it became a TAPS family team. But yeah,
that's cool though. That's really cool. That's exciting.
Yeah, it's just one way we get cases. I mean, we don't get a lot of them, but sometimes it just kind of it really varies, to be honest. How often we get TAPS cases? It just kind of it floods sometimes, and sometimes you won't get one for 6 months. It's just kind of weird.
That's probably the same with any residential investigations, I'm sure, that occur. Sometimes you feel like the floodgates are really open. I feel like, excuse me, this time of year, it feels like there's a lot more people that contact you during the holidays, and I don't know if it's because of activities amping up, family members that are deceased, etc. So I find that too. I am a medium, but I belong to a couple teams that I consult with that we get a lot of cases at this time of year. So,
yeah, I mean, I know people feel more connected to their passed on family members during the holidays. So that could be a reason why maybe they do come back and visit us during the holidays as well. And plus, Halloween was just here and everybody's house is haunted during Halloween. So,
That's true. That's very true.
Very true. Yeah, I got a new, I got my ghost kit for my birthday a couple of weeks ago. So,
that's right.
I'm just waiting for the time to come.
Take that out and play with it.
Yeah. Yes, play with it. Yes. So, what is one of your, I guess you can say, the scariest cases where you like, oh shit, this is actually happening?
As far as being scared, I don't think that fear isn't something that happens during an investigation for me, really. Maybe a higher sense of awareness, but as far as fear goes, not really. I mean, we've been in situations where we were in one location in the grist, a place called the Cedar Creek Grist Mill, and Woodland, Washington. And the history of that place is that a serial killer had dumped one of his victims there in the early 70s, and her name was Barbara Deary. So the rumor is that she haunts the place, and so we were there investigating. We're all down underneath. There's like the underneath where she was left, and we're doing an EVP session, and the entire place shook. It felt like almost like we were like, did somebody hit the place with a car or something? It was like, what the heck is that? So we're all freaked out. So we go up. Yeah, so we all go upstairs to find out, what's going on. There's nobody there. There's no footprints. There's no tire tracks. There's nothing. And the weirdest part about it was when we went back to review the video and the audio, of course, you could hear us talking about it. Like, what the hell was that? But it picked up none of it on the audio or the video.
Wow.
Yeah. So that was kind of one of those, oh shit moments, like you're like, kind of like, what the heck? There's just no explanation for it. We can't explain it. There's just, we thought for sure.
Then you thought for sure that you would have it at least on an EVP or something like that too.
Yeah.
Especially when you all hear it.
Yeah. Because you hear us talking about it. We're like, oh crap, what was that? Like freaking out. Like, hey, let's go upstairs and see what we can find. But you don't hear anything on the video or the audio. And we had like 3 or 4 different audios and like probably 2 videos, and we didn't get any of it. So that was kind of cool.
Had they had that happen before at that particular location?
Not that I'm aware of.
Circumstance?
Yeah, not that I'm aware of. Yeah, it's a grist mill, so it's kind of, they make like flour and stuff there and whatever, and it's a cool place. It's been there for I don't know, I can't remember the exact date, but it's been there for a long time, and yeah, so they do, it's kind of a historical place. They kind of keep it up now, and they've remodeled some of it and that kind of stuff, and they try to keep it so it doesn't fall apart, because it's all wood out here in the Pacific Northwest, and it's rainy, and things rot out here, so they're trying to keep it up, and they try to keep some of the old equipment running and stuff, so people can come in and see how they used to make stuff and that kind of stuff there. So that's cool location. Yeah,
that's like it's not only educational but haunted at the same time.
Yeah. Outside of the haunted history and the they found Barbara there, but they believe there could be a body somewhere else on the property from the same guy, but they haven't been able to find it. But there is rumors of that. And he was. What's that?
I was going to say, is the killer still alive, or has he died? Or
he's in prison. He's been in prison since the 70s, and he hasn't been convicted for all of the cases they suspect that he was involved in, because back in the 70s they just didn't have the technology that we have now, and so he is in prison for the rest of his life, and he's probably pretty old if he's been in prison already for like 50 years something. But
yeah.
Like his name is Forrest or something like that. I can't remember his name exactly off the top of my head, but yeah, he's been sitting in prison for a long time. They suspect him of 5 or 6, maybe more, women that came up missing during that period.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
That's terrible. Wow. Unbelievable.
Yes. So how many people do you have on your TAPS team?
Right now, the Portland team, I believe we have 8 or 9. People come in and out. So, I think we have 8 or 9 right now. Boise has probably 20. If I haven't looked at their roster, recently, but they're a little bit bigger of a team. Yeah.
Oh, it's just in Boise in September. I didn't know that. I would have looked them up.
Yeah. They got some really cool stuff. They do the public investigations for the old Boise State penitentiary there in Boise. So that's a really cool place to investigate. They do that several times a year where the public can come in and pay to investigate with them. And that's a really cool location because it's very historic as well. And it's basically a museum. They've made a museum out of it at this point, but yeah, it's pretty haunted. I mean, they had death row there that,
oh, wow.
all that kind of stuff. They used to hang people there and stuff. So, it's pretty active.
That would have been cool to check out when I was there. I was there for just a short trip of 2 days with my husband on business, but in the in-between time, I was like trying to see what was in Boise and Idaho Falls. I was in Idaho Falls and then Boise on the second day. So yeah.
Well, now you know. Now we know. Yeah, you have to look them up and say, hey.
Yes, if you ever go back, yeah.
And I should have asked Jason. I should have known Jason back then, and I could have asked him.
Could have hooked you up with Marie over there. She could have shown you around.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. beautiful city, by the way.
Yeah.
Have
Yeah, I
you
go there about once a year.
have you ever done an investigation where you found nothing, or maybe it can be either commercially or residential, where you've been, as we were talking, you get a lot of people that Halloween think everything's haunted at Halloween, but have you ever had a case where you've gone in and it's just there's nothing there, and it's just maybe someone's imagination, or
Most of our cases are actually we don't find things that we believe to be paranormal. We do a lot of we go in skeptical. I the main thing what I do is I don't let my team know anything about the location. So I'm the only one, and maybe my assistant will know because they'll do the walkthrough with me and stuff, the initial walkthrough. But we try to keep, if it's a place we haven't been before, a blind study so the team doesn't have any idea, any preconceived ideas. So yeah, that's kind of how we do that. And so we go in pretty. So what we try to do is we try to find logical explanations for what the client is experiencing.
Mhm.
And most of the time we can do that. And and sometimes that is that they watch too much Ghost Adventures. Like if you walk in for and they know you're coming, you walk in and you see Zach Baggins on the TV, that's exactly what's going on. They just watch too much paranormal TV, especially if they've bought their own like K2 meters and that kind of stuff, and they have no idea what they're doing with them. We had one lady, she was walking around her house with a K2 meter that she had bought. And she has it sitting on top of her cell phone as she's walking around. And of course, it's making it go up. So I was like, oh, how about you sit it on the coffee table and we'll see what happens then, And then, of course, it doesn't go off and she's getting mad. She's like, but then she goes, put it back on her phone. See what's going on. No. You try to explain that
right.
stuff but people want their locations to be haunted. So they, it's a lot more fun that way, I guess. I don't know. I personally like to sleep at night, so I don't want my house to be haunted.
I know. Well, that's like, being a medium. How many people just look at you as being a medium and going, that is the coolest thing in the world. We want to do that too. And I'm like, it's a curse and a blessing at the same time.
Yeah.
Trust me, you may not want this gift once you have it, because it is,
right.
You don't sleep either.
Yeah, I've talked to a lot of mediums. I have a lot of medium friends, and they're like, you really have to set boundaries with them.
You do.
Like, this is my space, when I'm in bed or in my house, you just leave me alone. Like a lot of my friends talk about, that's how they do it. They just set boundaries. But sometimes, just like our living friends, they don't always respect the boundaries. So
they don't always adhere. They don't always adhere. No. Yeah. So yes, I get it. It's interesting. I just had a case that was similar to what you were talking about. I went in there with just logic. It was, and Christy knows a little bit about it too, because I was sharing some of the information with her as well about the fact that it's they're just manifesting negativity in the house. And so consequently, the roommate and her are upset with each other. The children have noticed this negative energy. So they're arguing with one another, and the dog is even growling at people. So, once I went in and I'm like, there's really nothing going on here. There's nothing paranormal in here. You just have to manifest more positivity and happiness and laughter. And that was probably 4 or 5 weeks ago. And we got a call stating that there's nothing going on in the house at all anymore. And I'm like,
that's good.
Yes. Yeah. Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, that does happen. People just likes to want something to happen to the home to probably X out of the anger towards each other.
Right.
So this like, well, we're getting angry because the spirit is manifest us to get angry at each other or something. And you're just like, no, because I was in a home in Colorado one time too, bless it. And I noticed that there was some spirits, but there were good spirits. They was there to protect the children, because what I got from the spirits was that the couple was always angry, always was, fighting and everything, and it was scaring the children. So, take the children to a side and they say, yeah, mom and dad fight all the time. It's like, oh, okay, we know what's going on here.
And that's exactly what was going on. The ex would come over to see the kids, and then they would have he'd bring his negativity, and then they would start arguing, and yep. So it was an easy fix in that particular case. So we do the same thing. 90% of the time I walk in, I don't typically know what's all going on in the houses or the business. They keep me basically in the dark, which is, I prefer it that way too.
Yeah. Yeah, that's
Are
always the
you in
best
the
way to
dark
be.
most of the time, Jason? You and your team, or do you have a little bit of history you kind of go
Um,
with?
I do have people that do a history on the location, so they'll know a little bit about like names of people that live there and that kind of stuff,
Mhm.
and like renovations and all the kind of stuff that's in the property, all this kind of stuff you can find in the history report. But I won't let them in on the reports of activity, what's going on,
Mm,
that kind of stuff. But so I'm usually the only one that knows those kind of things, and occasionally my assistant, if she goes in with me for the initial walkthrough, because what we'll do is we'll leave the team outside and we'll go in and do the initial interview with the client, and they'll talk to us about what's going on, and we get a feel for the client, we get a feel for the location, and we can figure out, is this a safe location to even bring our team into? Because I mean, there's all sorts of different things that can happen. Like we had one lady, she was on oxygen, she lit up a cigarette, so we decided this is not going to be a safe location for us to investigate, so sorry. We just
wow.
hoarding situations where like I don't want to bring my team in because it's not safe for that. And maybe there's some unsafe stairs, there's black mold, there's all sorts of things that you don't want to bring your team
Yeah.
into. So that's one of the big things we do in the initial walkthrough, is make sure it's safe and figure out what's going on. We just kind of keep the team
Yeah.
outside, and when we're ready for them, they'll come in. I'll tell them, hey, this is what I want you to do, or I want you to set stuff up. And sometimes I'll have them set stuff up, based off hotspots or whatever. And other times I just wing it. So, and you get stuff for both. So,
Wow.
Yeah, the hoarding situation. I've had that too.
yeah, it's like, even if you have a ghost, we're not finding it because, it's hiding. Yeah.
It's
It's
hard
hiding
to
someplace. The
do.
papers over there, or the clothes on the floor over there. It's hiding, probably for
Yeah.
good reason. So,
Yeah.
Yeah. The ghost wants you to clean your house. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's the message we're getting. Clean your house.
Clean
yeah,
your house. Exactly. No kidding.
right.
Call us back. Yeah.
Now you have a radio show called Hassling the Paranormal, which I love the name. I think the name is really awesome and
It
everything.
is.
Yeah, my friend came up with that because I was like, I don't know what to call it. And then one day he was
Oh,
like, you need to call it Hassling the Paranormal. And I'm like, I'm not going to come up with anything better than that because it goes with my last name and everything. So, like,
yes,
it's kind of funny. So I was
It's
like, yeah,
perfect.
that's perfect.
yeah.
It's funny because some people get mad at me if they don't know my last name. They're like, why are you hassling the paranormal? It's like, well, let me explain. Oh, and then one lady was still mad. She's like, well, that's just a bad name. You're just making things look bad. No, it's just a show name, lady. Like, don't listen if you don't like it, but like, take a listen to the show, realize what you're talking about. Like, well, I'm not hassling the paranormal. I'm interviewing people, but it's just a play on my name.
Right. Right.
Kind of funny.
So tell us about the show.
Yeah,
I know it consists of a lot of paranormal plus more,
yeah.
according to your website that I think we have down below going across the screen. So, in your own words, what would you sell to us about your show?
So my show, I try to have a little bit of for everyone. So I'll have Bigfoot, aliens, ghosts, any kind of paranormal topic, psychics on, all sorts of different stuff, near death experience people. I mean, a plethora of everything. I like to have everybody on it. I just basically bring my guests on, people that have like written books, or maybe they're mediums, or maybe, they're other investigators. They've done investigations on UFOs or Bigfoot or whatever, and just have them on and let them tell their story, and ask them basically the same kind of questions as like you would ask me, like how did you get started, that kind of stuff, and just let them tell their story. And it's I've learned quite a lot, and it's a lot of fun. I've been doing it for pushing 2 years now. I started out is just doing a little podcast on the radio, on the internet, and then I found KXRW, which is a radio station in Vancouver, and hit them up about bringing my show to the station, and they were all for it. So I've been doing that. And so my show airs on 99.9 FM in Vancouver, Washington on KXRW. And new shows air every second and fourth Thursday. And
Oh,
then they
nice.
replay. And the other Thursdays at 6 p.m. It's always 6 p.m. But the other Thursdays, the third and first, they just re-air a random episode. And then on Saturdays, they re-air random episodes at 2 o'clock. It's on all the time. I don't even know. So sometimes I'll get in the car and turn on the radio and be like, "Oh, I'm on." That's good.
Yeah. When you say that you learn a lot
Yeah.
from your show, yeah, we've been podcasting for probably 13, 14 months.
Yeah.
And I have learned a lot just doing the podcast
Yeah.
with, different authors, UFO people, paranormal cryptids, unknown.
Yeah.
And
Perspectives
it's
for
fun.
sure. Yeah.
Yeah, it's very educational. I can understand that.
And you
What's
get to
that?
meet people that have the same interests, and they
Mhm.
won't think you're crazy. Like, they have the same level of crazy as we have. So, like, people always tell me, "Hey,
Yeah.
don't you think you're a little crazy?" I'm like, "Yeah, but the paranormal has absolutely nothing to do with it." So,
That's right.
Yeah.
Although you might have to be a little crazy to, endure it.
yeah, I mean, like, there are some places you're going into in the dark and stuff, and people tell you all
Well, you
sorts of
can
stories.
always tell everybody that you talk to ghosts. What do you do for a living? I talk to ghosts. You know,
It's a good conversation starter, with new people and stuff.
it
Especially
is.
like, when I was in the dating world, people would be like it would either be really good because they think it was really cool, or they'd be like, yeah, no, this guy talks to ghosts. I'm out of here.
Yeah, I know. I have friends that's like, "Oh, what's your podcast about?" And I would tell them, they're like, "Oh, okay." And it's like, you probably won't listen to it, because I know how they are. And they're
Yeah.
just like, "Yeah, you're probably right," because I'm not interested in none of those things. It's like, yeah. It's like today I was watching Age of Disclosure. It's a new
I don't think
UFO
of,
UPA documentary. And
okay, I don't think I've seen that one yet.
I mean, it costs like $25 on
Oh,
Prime.
okay.
And but it's really interesting because they talk about the UFOs, the UAPs, and everything. And
Yeah.
um, yeah, it's if you have a chance to watch it, I think you should.
Yeah. I just had my last guest was this guy named Ed Wilson, and he's a historian and author, and he purchased some pictures that were in transcripts from NASA because it's
Oh,
all
wow.
yeah. And these pictures are from the Apollo missions, and there's literally UFOs in them, and then the transcripts of the astronauts talking about what they saw. I mean, some of it is blacked out, so to keep it from the general public, but there's pictures that you just can't deny. But it was an interesting interview because he was an interesting guy. I don't know how to say. He talked a lot. Like, I asked 3 questions in an hour. Like the first question I asked him, 19 minutes and 8 seconds later, I had to interrupt and be like, "All right, next question." And then, I got 3, and then I had to be like, "All right, dude, we're out of time. Sorry."
That's funny.
But he
It's
was
his
just so
passion.
passionate about it. Yeah, he was so excited about what he got. And his big thing is he's older, he's in his 70s, and he wants, he's concerned that the youth of today isn't as interested in the kind of stuff that his generation is, like the history and that kind of stuff. And this stuff's going to get lost. And this is very important stuff. And we should be learning from this because his big thing is, like most of our military is, especially in the Air Force and stuff, is probably from the alien stuff that they've acquired from like Roswell and that kind of stuff. And we need to be doing some investigations there and finding out more. And he's got all these Freedom of Information Act requests out that he's, with the government shutdown and stuff was kind of lagging, but hopefully he's going to write another book when he gets that information. So yeah, his book is called The Simpkinson Files, and his name is Ed Wilson.
I saw that book. Yeah. When I was looking at some books, yeah.
Yeah, it's like $100 and some, but a lot of it is pictures, so that's probably why it costs so much because of all the pictures and stuff. But he said he sold some of the pictures that he got. He sold them for like $80,000.
Whoa!
Wow.
Yeah, so I don't know what he paid for them, but it sounds to me like he made quite a good investment.
That was a good profit margin.
So I think he got them at like an estate sale or something. It was just kind of he just got lucky, but
Wow. That's like something landing in your lap at the right time,
Yeah, so he's super interested in it, and he just talks 100 miles an hour. You know, like wow, slow down. Let's ask some questions here. But it's a decent episode, so yeah, it'll air on Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
That's like Jeff Woolwine. He is so
Oh, yeah.
passionate, and he
He's
has
very,
so much information and so educational information.
yeah.
It's mind-boggling.
Yeah,
It is. He's a great guest, though.
Yeah.
You can tell he's very passionate about what he does, and
yeah,
Yeah.
even his 2 books has proved it too with his
Yep.
pictures and everything.
yeah.
So yeah, yeah.
So, go ahead, Chrissy.
Oh, I was just gonna say, go ahead, me.
I was going to ask you about, everybody kind of going back to our Halloween like thought process, but again,
Yeah,
you probably get a lot of people that want to know if they've got demons, and
yeah.
so my question is, have you ever run into a demon or found demonic
No,
energy or?
no. I mean, we run into people that claim to have all sorts of things going on, and unfortunately, like my first thing, and it offends people, but the realistic thing is when somebody calls you and tells you they're having demonic possessions and the kind of stuff that people will tell us is going on with them. And a lot of it is very personal, and some of it's
Yeah.
even like sexual related stuff that they're having with like these demonic, they believe they're having these demonic things. And so the first thing I ask, and they get upset usually, is when was the last time you saw your doctor? Because you want to start there. You want to start with something logical.
Mm-hmm.
And the person needs a mental evaluation. If you really think, I mean, I literally had a guy that thought that he couldn't leave his house because the demon wouldn't let him leave, and the demon was assaulting him in a sexual manner. And I just had to explain to him, like, look, bro, like, I'm not going to come out to your house and try to, because what we try to do is find logical explanations, obviously, but we also try to document evidence of the paranormal.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if this guy's being assaulted, I'm not going to video that, Right. And is it safe for me to bring my team in if this guy believes that's the kind of thing that's going on? So I just had to tell him the first thing you need to do. And his mother was on the phone as well. And he was an adult, but like he had lost his job and everything because he wouldn't leave the house. It was just, he had something. And he's like, well, if I go in and tell my doctor that, they're going to keep me. And I'm like, yeah, they're going to stabilize you. Yeah. That's probably what they'll do. They're going to figure out what's really going on here because you probably don't have a demon. Now, demons for me are a religious idea, and I'm non-religious, so people have different views, and that's completely fine. But for me, like, is there bad entities out there? Yeah, because we believe that these spirits were once people. Mm-hmm. So not all people are good. So why would it be any different when you passed on? So, just kind of like, if I'm investigating, death row at the Idaho State Penitentiary, I'm assuming the spirits there probably weren't real nice people.
Right.
So
exactly.
You got to treat them with a level of respect differently than, just because, people are like, always ask me, how do you keep yourself safe? Well, when you're not religious, you don't say any prayers, you don't have any. To me, is I just go in and treat the space and the spirits with respect as though they were people standing in front of me. And, I don't provoke, I don't swear at them. I just talk to them like they're just a normal person, regardless of it. I think, it's a murderer or something I'm trying to talk to. You just got to go in there, because first of all, if you're disrespectful, they're not going to talk to you, or they're going to give you something you don't want. So,
right. Exactly.
They might follow you home. I don't know. Thankfully, that's never happened to me, but I have heard of people say that, they've had spirits follow them home for, different reasons. But
have you ever had, I had a case that came up with one of our teams, and it's called Fear Cage, where you have so much electromagnetic energy coming off of, like, was it you? There was somebody else that we interviewed, and I wanted to say I thought it was you, or maybe it might have been Mark, that had a case that was similar to that, where like they had 2 lamps like next to the bed that was giving off so much EMF that it was literally causing fear cage, where they thought similar situation to what you're talking about with this gentleman was that, that they feel like they're sexually assaulted, or Was it you that did that case?
We had a case. There was a lady who she thought she was seeing a man in her room. She was hearing voices. She thought her ceiling was bleeding at one point. She was seeing all this stuff. So we assumed like right away that's what it was going to be, because her partner, he slept for whatever reason. He slept in a different room. I don't know what their arrangement was or whatever. So he wasn't having any issues with it. But so we went there, and the first thing we did was we went into her bedroom, and we took our EMF detectors and checked by her bed. And we went right up to the bed, and right next to her pillow, it pegged out our meter. And what was going on, she had this really old alarm clock. And on the other side of the wall was I think it was like a water softener in the garage, was on the other side of the wall. And all that is just is pegging our meters through the wall even. And all that's going into her head all night long. So especially if you're sensitive to it, it could really mess with you like that. So we were able to give her that information. They did end up moving because she couldn't get those pictures out of her head. She, even though she knew, okay, this is a logical explanation. I moved my bed, I got a different alarm clock and it wasn't happening anymore. She just couldn't get past it. Watching your ceiling bleed and all that kind of stuff, you can.
Yeah, PTSD. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
We did the best we could to help them, but we gave them a logical. It was kind of funny because the husband, or I don't know if they're married, but her partner, he was a scientist. He knew exactly what was going on, had told her exactly what was going on, but she was not going to take it from him because it's just her partner. What does he know, So we're telling him, he's just kind of sitting there with this little smirk on his face, like, kind
of like, I told you so.
Doubt me again. Thanks.
Yeah, that I remember that you had told me about that because I had just had a case similar to what you were experiencing. And the woman, the ironic thing was that she did have a spirit there, but the spirit, once he realized what was going on, and I talked to him, he left. But then she kept saying that he was there. But Misty, our leader, took the EMF detector and put it up to her chest, and it was like 60. And the husband was even higher. And then you put it on me, and of course it's 0. But that's how much that they had absorbed into their system, even just being in the house at that particular moment in time. So it's crazy. So she'll periodically reach out to us and say, hey, is Mitchie back? Because it was Mitch, the guy that was in her house. And I'm like, he has not come back, and there's nothing else in your house. But they haven't moved, and I don't think they've had an electrician out there to kind of check to see what's going on. So it's really wild.
That's a really that's the basic place to start right there when somebody's complaining of paranormal activity. And like you said, she did have IMF, but that doesn't mean they're not experiencing something that's paranormal. So you have to do your due diligence with that as well. But it's all sorts of logical reasons, and people will accept your reasoning or they won't, and it's up to them. But we just try to do our best to help the clients feel better in their own spaces, and rather than what you see a lot on the TV or a lot of teams. And I did a presentation yesterday, and I've been teaching classes at conferences and online and stuff about ethics, paranormal investigation ethics, and stay in your lane, know who you are, know what your qualifications are. Just because you watch some lady on YouTube with a shell and a feather and some sage doesn't mean you know how to smudge a house.
Right.
Don't do that. Don't tell people you're clearing their house because you saw it done on, you took a class online for, a psychic medium class or something. Because a lot of these mediums, they have classes where they help people connect with their spiritual side and their guides and that kind of stuff. And they take a couple classes and they think, oh, I'm a psychic now. When they don't realize these mediums have been working at their craft for 30, 40 years before they're even comfortable enough to say, hey, I could charge for this type of stuff,
right.
And charging people for readings and actually, helping people.
Right.
So you get these teams that go out and they've snuck into a graveyard and they've done some EVP recordings and they've gotten some, whatever they believe they've gotten. And now they're going to go into residentials and assist people. Now,
right.
What do they have for that? They don't have any skills for that. So I've been teaching classes about that kind of stuff. Know what you are. If you're a ghost hunter and you want to go out and do, just get permission to be where you're going.
Right.
Just go be a thrill seeker for entertainment. That's fantastic. Have fun with that. But know that's who you are. You're not investigating people. We're trying to find logical explanations. Just know who you are. And that's basically the gist of my class that I taught, have been teaching. I taught at the Port Gamble Ghost Conference, and I did a presentation yesterday. I do once a month. There's a bar in Vancouver called Underbar, and they let me do what we call Vancouver's informal paranormal pub. So I'll have a speaker in each month on a different topic, and people will come in, have beers and food, and the speaker will talk about whatever it is that they're into, whether it be ghosts, UFOs, Bigfoot, or whatever. So I actually decided yesterday that that I would speak. Because I was out of town during the second. I was in Port Gamble during the second Sunday, so I moved it to yesterday. So I just did it myself because I had the class and everything. So I already had a presentation. So I just went ahead and did that and invited some people in that I thought could do with some education. So, and I don't mean to be, the thing is, these people, they can be passionate, really passionate about what they're doing. They're really excited. And sometimes they just need some proper direction and to know, hey, maybe they're not thinking about, maybe it's fun to be scared, but what they're not thinking is you're scaring people. It's cool to scare yourself. It's not cool to scare other people, especially with you saying, hey, I'm scared. And you're going, hey, let's scare these people some more. That's not what we're doing here.
Well, and that's like the difference between, the teams that I belong to. It's the difference between what we call ghost hunting and paranormal investigations. Are you a paranormal investigator or are you a ghost hunter? Are you just a weekend warrior that goes to the graveyards and, uses your SLS camera? Or are you really a paranormal investigator and you're going to debunk and you're going to get evidence and help people? Because that's the truth and the difference between the two, hobby versus professionalism.
Yeah.
And like I tell people, there's nothing wrong with either one of those. Just know what you are. And if you want to become a paranormal investigator, you got to put the work in. And what I tell people is you can't just become a paranormal investigator. You can't just create your own team and become a paranormal investigation team. You have to find people that are smarter than you, that have been doing it a long time. And whether they mentor you or you join their team or they show you how to do this stuff for real, that's how you do it. It's almost impossible to teach yourself to do this kind of stuff.
Yes, I agree.
You have to, and that's, me, I joined my team and I was the ghost hunter, like when I joined my team and so I learned, through TAPS how to do all this kind of stuff. And there are trainings and logical explanations for things. And pretty soon, like I was able to do all this. Now I'm the director of my team. So, it's been a lot of fun. It's
a journey.
Yeah. And then you get people that join your team that think it's Ghost Adventures. And they're like, they go on their investigation. They're like, this is dumb. And you never see them again, And so you have to really tell people, hey, we're really just sitting around in the dark, calling out our body functions. So we know what it is on the recorder. And when you're in a quiet, dark room, your stomach makes some noises.
Mm-hmm. Yep. It does. It's funny. It's really funny. Or sneezing or coughing.
Yeah. I felt terrible because we had this one, she's going to hate me, Stacy. She sneezed and she farted at the same time.
Oh my gosh.
Like she was holding in a fart, and then she sneezed and it just came out. And we got it on audio, of course.
Oh.
I was like, I'm going to clip it for training. And she's like, I will absolutely kill you. So, yeah, we didn't do that. It's a poor Stacy, but we it's something that people need to realize that's really what we're doing. We're not running around chasing ghosts and looking at them and being possessed and that kind of stuff like that you see on TV. Because if they made a TV show where they actually just followed us around with their cameras, most people would watch our show for about 5 minutes and go, okay, I'm going to sleep.
Yeah. Boring. Yeah.
It's really boring. And then the review side of it is even more boring than that. So, and that takes twice as long. So if you have 1 hour of audio, you're probably going to be checking into that, reviewing it for 2. So,
well, and a lot of these people don't understand that, okay, let's use Ghost Adventures, for example, or Ghost Hunters. I mean, Amy Bruni, I'm friends with Amy, and so I kind of know a little bit about how long it takes for them to do a show. It's like you're there for 3 or 4 days, sometimes weeks. Yeah. And so you got to get all that information from 2 weeks. and then put it together to get an hour's worth of show, you know?
And it's really like 48 minutes because you have commercials and stuff. So it's
Commercials.
not even a whole hour. Yeah. So, yeah, but people don't realize, because like we go to a location for 2 or 3 hours, maybe 6 hours at the most, and, these shows are there for a week or 3 days. And yeah, so they get to do a lot. Plus, they have bigger teams than a lot of us have to do review and that kind of stuff.
Right.
And they've
Right.
been properly trained to do so. That's another thing I tell people: know what you're looking for, know what you're looking at, because people want to find evidence of the paranormal so bad they overlook common sense.
Right.
And like when it comes, they're like, oh, like with orbs, like maybe that some orbs can be paranormal. I don't think that they are. A lot of people do, but there's such an easy explanation for what they actually are. We just don't like, unless the orb starts talking, I'm not going to be like, this is something. I'm going to be like, it's dust, moisture, insect, whatever. It's so much that it could be. And there are a lot of people that just get pissed off. Like, no, these are paranormal. No, they're not.
Right. That thing that has wings is a bug.
I had somebody who's like, no, that's a fairy. I'm like, what in the hell? What? Really? Okay, you have fairies in your house then. Don't use raid or something. Like,
Last time I checked, fairies aren't like the size of a moth.
I've never met one, so I don't know. Maybe they are. But I just laugh at people because it's like, usually, like, there's this one team and they told, this lady called me and she said, I had a team out and they really scared me. I need to know if they're correct. And so she sent me a video from her Ring camera. Now she lives in Portland. What do we know about Portland? It rains a lot here. So it's moisture. She's got all these orbs on her Ring camera. So it looks like it's the most haunted place in the world if you believe in orbs, looking at a Ring camera, because there's hundreds of them out there. This team told her these ghosts are trying to get into your apartment.
Yeah.
And this woman was a self-admitted ex-drug user. She's, so she doesn't have all of her mental capacity. She was a meth user for years. So she, I was so mad. I was pissed because I'm like, why are you doing this? Who, why would you say that to this lady? Like, what evidence do you, and I always tell people, never speak in absolute, but you don't ever say, this is what you have. You say, this is what we found. This is what we believe.
Right.
We don't actually know a thing. We've been doing paranormal investigations been happening for 100 years, but we haven't proven anything in 100 years. We've got a lot more theories and a lot different thought processes, a little bit more science behind it. But at the end of the day, we're nowhere further improving the existence of afterlife than we were when we started.
Right.
So, and so I always tell people, like, everything we believe is a theory. So don't speak, this is what it is, because and it happens a lot. I do it to people that people have done it to me where, like, I think I may have something. And then they come and say, actually, we have this before too. And we actually found out, this is what this actually was. And they, and people need to do that. And like,
yeah,
there's a lot of teams out there that are afraid to show their evidence to other teams because of that. Where
Right.
me, I'm going to show my evidence because I want, if somebody else knows something that I don't know, I want to learn.
Right. Right.
What this is all about.
I always say I'm learning every day, and I learn from everybody else. I'm a student. I'm a perpetual student, so I will constantly want to learn and see new things. So,
none of us are experts in this. There's no such thing as an expert. Now, people can call themselves an expert in maybe in paranormal investigation, like they know what they're doing. Like, hey, I've done a lot of paranormal investigations. I know like the technology for it and like that kind of stuff, how to do the actual review. Maybe you're an expert in that kind of stuff. But as far as being a ghost hunter, there's no professionalism in that at all. And there's no expert in that. It's just, that's fun to do. Like, and there's nothing wrong with doing that, but just know who you are and what your qualifications are and your role and stick to it.
Right. Exactly.
When I see people doing that kind of stuff, because one of the things I tell people in my class is leave the space as good or better than you found it.
Yes.
And also make sure that you properly represented the paranormal field as to not screw up that location for the next team that comes. Because how many times have you asked to get into a location and they tell you, well, yeah, we had this team in, but they're a bunch of assholes. So I'm sorry, we don't do this anymore.
That's true.
Yeah. Yeah. Or we asked them, like, there was one place I know of, they all they asked was, hey, we don't like Ouija boards. Please don't bring Ouija boards in. So what did this team do? They live broadcasted themselves on Facebook going, they didn't want us to use Ouija boards, but here we are. And they're using these Ouija boards and provoking whatever spirit is there. And that is so, and I will call people out for that crap. I'm going, no, don't do that, because you make us all look like idiots. Plus, like, how dare you just go to somebody's house, stir up their spirits, piss them off, and leave.
And then leave.
Yeah. That's like, aftercare is such a big part of this that people don't realize.
Right.
So like, people they're looking for answers, whether they want and that's another thing I always tell people. When you're doing your initial interview, one of the things that you need to look for is this investigation, no matter how bad you want to investigate this place, is this case the proper case for your team? Are you qualified to do what the expectation of the client is? And if the expectation, if I have a client and they call me and they say, hey, I want somebody to come in and clear the spirits from my house, I will say, thanks for calling. Let me recommend some people for you, but that's not what we do. We're not going to pretend that we do that. We're not, I will say, hey, I can come in and do an investigation. We can go from there and see what we find, see if maybe we can come up with some logical stuff. But if you really want somebody to come in and cleanse and that's all you want, let me recommend these people. Or if they want a psychic, because we believe, we don't have a psychic on our team. We don't have issues with psychics because there's different ways to do things. And there's a lot of fake psychics out there, but legit psychics, like if somebody says, hey, I want to have a psychic come out and communicate with these spirits, find out what do they want? What are they doing? How can we help them?
Right.
Or, what is their story even? Who are they? I can say, okay, yeah, that's great. Let me get a hold of one of my friends who I believe in and know is an actual psychic, because there are so many psychics out there.
Please tell me about it.
I saw a team. They told this guy, and he was actually somebody I know, that he was possessed by a demon, and they told him not to worry because their friend could get rid of it. So they charged him. I don't know. He said it was a donation, and it wasn't cheap. And they live broadcasted the clearing on Facebook, which to me is
wow.
Never, like, for my team, residential investigations are confidential.
Right.
100%, no matter what the client, even if the client was like, hey, put my video online, you got this great ghost video, but we're not doing it. It's residential. We're not doing it. So commercial locations, we give them the choice. Do you want this on our website, or do you want it confidential? And if it's confidential, we treat it just like a HIPAA thing. Like, you don't talk about it with anybody that doesn't need to know.
Right.
So that's how we treat things. But yeah, so them live broadcast. And so they brought in their medium to help, get rid of this possession. And she's on her phone app communicating with this demon. And I'm like, and they're live broadcasting this stuff. So I'm like, wow, I'm freaking out. Like, I just want to lose my mind on them. But I can't, because I got a reputation. People know who I am. But then, like, somebody said in the comments, hey, are you guys taking beginners? And I could not help myself. I said, it appears they are beginners. Help myself. I could not. And of course, then my phone's blown up. All my friends were like, oh, we knew you were going to say something.
You're like, my inside voice came out. I'm sorry.
But I'm not wrong, and like, it irritates me because, like, first of all, if you need a phone app to communicate with the spirit, you are not a medium.
You're not a medium.
Yeah, a phone app is not going to help you communicate with a spirit. A phone app is going to make your REM pod go off. And I always tell people, put your phone away and pay attention to what you're doing.
Right, exactly.
If you're on your phone app or texting or your Facebook or whatever you're doing, Facebook Live or all this, you're not actually investigating. You're playing with devices. You're playing with your phone. You're not seeing 90% of what's going on around you. And you're not listening. You're not paying attention. It's all about the device or your phone. Put that down and actually investigate. Yeah. And, we'll break out, like, we have a spirit box. Those things are cool and they're obnoxious and loud. We always use the S method because I'm not going to listen to somebody else. I'm just not listening to it. I'm just not. No, somebody's going to put headphones on. They're going to go over there and they can tell us what they hear.
Right.
But, we don't actually use that very often unless it's like a public investigation where we're educating or entertaining, because people want to see what they see on TV. They want to come out and see the REM pods. They want to see the K2 meters. They want to see the camera. Yep, they want to see all this stuff. And there's no, and I'm honest, there's no scientific proof that any of this stuff is anything.
Right.
Like I tell people, I was like, if you're using the spirit box and it's scanning radio frequencies and coming up with words, if one of those words are a word that you cannot say on the radio, you may have something.
Right. That is true.
Yeah. I mean, because you're not going to hear the F word on the radio.
That is correct. Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I've had that occur.
Yeah, me too. I was up in Port Gamble in this place called the Walker Ames House, and this lady had one, and it was a public investigation. We were basically what we do on investigations there is we just tell the people, this is your investigation, do as you want, be respectful. You can use your equipment, whatever equipment you brought with you, as long as it doesn't interfere with everybody else's time. So this lady, she had what she called a portal box that she had brought, and it is scanning stuff like the radio stations and stuff. And I would ask it a question, and twice it told me to go to F myself. So I'm like, that's not the radio. And it was kind of funny because one of our team members in the attic area it's where they used to have, the kids used to play up there. So there's lots of toys and stuff that people brought in as trigger objects and stuff. And there's like this little kid's guitar. And so Cindy, she picks up the guitar and she's playing the guitar and she's singing along this little kid song and just kind of, just playing around. And I said, what do you think of Cindy's song? And we got, not great. As clear as you can get out of the spirit box. So, when you get stuff like that, it makes you wonder, like, it's really something, but like, you can't prove it, but you can't disprove it either.
Yeah. It's amazing. I've run into a couple of people that have claimed that they're mediums. One of them actually was at an apothecary in a historical town of Clifton, Arizona. And same thing. My first impression of her was she was sitting on the floor playing with cat balls and she was batting them and telling the spirits, thank you. And I was like, a cat ball, you need to leave it alone. Don't touch it, But why, if you're a medium, why do you need cat balls to communicate with the spirits? Right. I mean, I don't need it. I am the equipment.
Yeah. Like anytime I have a medium come in, they usually don't bring anything but a recorder and a notebook.
Right. Exactly. I walk in, I might do dowsing rods periodically, but for the most part, I am the tool, Yeah. So
if I have a client request a medium and an investigation, a lot of times what I'll do is I'll call one of my medium friends and have them come in. And what they'll do is they'll do the initial walkthrough with me. And they'll just, I'll be talking to the client and they'll just do their thing. They won't even be part of that. They'll just do their thing, write things down, whatever they feel. And then after that, they'll just be like another investigator. I'm telling them, don't say, hey, there's a woman spirit over here, because then we're all going to feel it, so they just keep it to themselves. And whatever they write down, we can compare their notes to what we found with our evidence during review. And if like he came up with a name or something that we found, an EVP for, or the historical report or something, then we could show the client, hey, he came up with this name and it shows, 1940, a person with that name owned this house, and it's that kind of stuff. That's how we use mediums if we do end up using them. And we don't do it a lot, but a lot of times clients request that. And because I have a friend, William Becker, and he's really good at coming in and communicating with the spirits and then talking to the people about how to live with the spirits that they have. Because in his belief system is, you can't kick them out. It's their choice. You can't just come into a place and say, hey, I realize you've been here for 70 years, but get the hell out now because we live here. You can't do that. Like, That's and right. How are you going to make them do that? How are you going to verify that they're gone?
Right.
They would have to want to leave. So he said it's not right to ask them to leave. And it's also okay. It's also okay to set boundaries with them.
Right.
So, and talk to them just like a person. And so he teaches people how to, he'll be like, okay, this is a spirit here. This is what I'm getting. And this is what they want, or this is who they are, what they want. This is why they're doing these things. And this is, and he helps them communicate and how to make them more comfortable in their own space and live with the spirits that they have. And I think that's a good approach to take, because there's a lot of people out there that will be like, hey, $300, I get rid of these for you, you know, and that's just terrible, because you're charging these people and you can't prove that you did a damn thing.
Right. So it's true. I'm the same belief system as well as William. I I don't go in with the knowledge of trying to get rid of them, because it's no different than me telling you, okay, Chrissy and Jason, I want you to drink water right now.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
can't make you drink water. So how do
Yeah,
you think anyone
yeah.
can make somebody leave that's living in, it's a ghost,
Yeah.
It's up to them,
I had one lady. She her name is June Lundgren. I don't know. She was on Ghost Adventures when they were out here in Oregon. She calls herself the Demon Seer. She's written a few books. She claims that she fights demons and stuff. But I'm like, June, you're 100 years old. You walk with a cane. So I had her on my show. She was my very first guest just because I knew she would be very interesting.
Mhm.
So I got to know her a little bit. And one of the things I'll do is if I have a client that truly believes they have a demon, there's nothing I can do to convince them otherwise, I hook them up with June, because June will believe they have a demon and she will help them. And that person will believe that June helped them. And then I've done my job. So as long as they believe that, as long as the client believes they've been helped, then you've done what you can do.
That's true.
And yeah, with her, but she really upset me one day. Just out of the blue, she sends me a text message. She says, "Hey, I need to talk to you before you go home from work. You need to call me." So I was like, odd, because we're not like friendly like that. We don't talk on the phone. We don't call each other. If I have a case or something I need help with, that's when I'll text her like, "Hey, here's some information. Do you want to help these people?" She tells me, "Hey, you need to go by the store because I need you to get some stuff because you need to do like some ceremony thing. Otherwise, your dog is going to die."
Oh my gosh.
Right. That really upset me because that's not funny. That's not cool. My dog's here. That's not cool. Like, what would possess her to do that? Like, and it's a really kind of
wow.
But yeah, like, really? Why would you say that? Like, why? I don't understand. Again, just making stuff up to scare people is just not okay.
Yeah.
Like,
I don't agree with that.
You don't mess with people's dogs.
No. Not at all. I got 3.
Right now.
That one out.
I should be talking to her, not on the show here. So she usually comes over and tries to climb in my lap because she likes to be a part of the show. So
I have one of those too.
Yeah. We all do, I think.
Yeah, that's terrible. I mean, and again, like, as you talk about mediums that are like, taking classes and educating themselves, and, like you said, it for a real medium to come out, they've been honing their skills for a long time, and you're constantly learning, as I said. And that's one thing that, like they teach you is that you're not a predictor. You can't predict this stuff. And you shouldn't predict this. You're not a doctor. You're not God. You should not go in and say, like, even if you were to pick up on somebody's illness, you're just, we're not trained to say, "Oh, you have cancer. You should go to the doctor." No, even though our spirit guides might be telling us that it's potentially cancer, humans have a way of being able to change their destiny, and their path. So you can't, and by all means, say your dog's going to die if you don't do this particular, spell or incantation or whatever. I mean, that's predicting the future, and you're not necessarily 100% right on that.
Yeah, it's just weird. I mean, I've ran into some instances where like a medium has told somebody, "Hey, I really think you need to see your doctor. I'm feeling that you're having some stomach issues or whatever." And then they go in and they tell their doctor that they do find something, right? And maybe that's just luck, or maybe that but that does happen. But you should never say go to the doctor because you have cancer. You should say, "Hey, I'm sensing that you might be having some medical issues. Maybe you should go to a doctor." Just suggest it, merely suggest, but don't ever tell somebody you're going to die if you don't listen to me.
Right? Exactly. I mean, that's just you. We're not God, and we're not doctors. So medical intuitive, yes, potentially, but. I mean, that's crazy. Yeah. So your dog is still alive, I hope.
She's around here somewhere. Lily, where are you at?
Poor dog, I swear. That's terrible, Jason.
I don't know where she's at. She's probably eating.
Yeah.
Lily,
that's just like when I had a vision one time of my husband's best friend dying and everything. And
oh, look at how cute she is.
Oh.
but when I had this vision, I didn't say it to nobody, "Oh,
Yeah.
I feel like your son's gonna pass away," even though I saw everything down to the T. I kept
Yeah.
quiet because no one's gonna believe me anyway, because
There's that
nobody
too. Yeah.
never believes anybody, and even I didn't believe myself, to tell you the truth. And then when it happened, I'm just like, "Oh my god," and I explained, "Was it a red truck, S10, blah, blah, blah?" It's like, "Yes, yes." Did it come out of this tavern? Yes, yes. I was like, you know, y you get scared for yourself. It's like, "Oh my god,
Yeah.
what's going on?" But it's a gift that comes and goes sometimes, at least for me. I just
Yeah.
have not been fortunate to have that gift to stay with me. It just comes and go. I think it comes and goes when it needs me, probably.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Thankfully, I
definitely.
don't have. Thankfully, I've never had any like issues like that where I've seen something. I mean, I get feelings about stuff and that kind of thing, but like, I think everybody has intuition like that. But like I think I've never had any visions of people dying and then having it come correct because I don't want that in my life.
No,
That's a
you don't.
responsibility I do not want.
Right. That is correct. Well, it's at the top of the hour. Jason, it has been a pleasure speaking to you. Very educational. Um, on your website that we have going across the screen, everybody can check out the site. And then do you have classes that's on the site or
Um,
seminars that people can attend?
if you follow my Facebook on Hassling the Paranormal, sometimes I'll teach a class online and that kind of thing. Or I'm teaching a class in March at Seaside, Oregon. It's an Oregon Ghost Conference. Yeah, so it's just random when I have classes, I'll put them all on my Facebook and stuff. I just taught my first online class a few weeks ago, so just to see how that would work, and it worked out great. So I'm thinking about doing more of that.
Oh,
Yeah, so
great. Keep us informed. We love
Yeah,
taking classes.
I do too.
yeah,
Yeah, we both do.
yeah, yeah.
Actually, the one you were talking about that you did yesterday, I mean that educational one, that I would be very
Yeah,
interested in that if you did that on an online class. That would be
yeah,
really cool.
Yeah, I can definitely
yeah.
do that. Yeah,
That'd
yeah.
be
If we have people interested, yeah, I can put that together.
awesome.
Uh,
Well, keep us informed. And to the audience, check Jason out. Go to his site and listen to the radio station. Um, very educational is what I can tell so far. I'm already there. So I'm going to be listening to the next one that comes up. So I just want to say, stick around while we end the show, and blessings to everybody. And if you celebrate Thanksgiving, have a safe one. And
Thank you, everybody.
subscribe and like and share out. Good evening, everybody.
Thanks, everybody. Thanks, Jason.
Thank you.